Welcome back to another episode of Air Design Answers. I'm Chris.
And I'm Todd. Thanks for joining us again. Today we're talking about something that almost every homeowner has dealt with at some point. Maybe it's a bedroom that's always too hot. Maybe it's a basement that's freezing cold. Maybe the second floor feels completely different than the first floor.
Exactly. We hear people describe it in a lot of different ways, but the complaint is usually the same. They say, my air conditioner is running, my furnace is running, but certain rooms in the house are never comfortable.
And what makes it frustrating is that homeowners often assume something major must be wrong with the equipment itself. They think the furnace is failing or the air conditioner is undersized, when sometimes the problem has very little to do with the equipment.
That's right. Airflow problems are incredibly common, and they're one of those issues that can be difficult for homeowners to diagnose because everything seems like it should be working. The thermostat says the house is 72 degrees. The system is turning on and off normally, yet one room might be 78 while another room is 68.
And that's where people get confused. They look at the thermostat and think the system is doing its job. Technically it is. The thermostat only knows the temperature where it's mounted. If that hallway thermostat says 72, the system assumes the whole house is 72, even if one bedroom feels like a sauna.
That's a huge misconception. People assume the thermostat represents the entire home, but really, it's only measuring one location. We've seen situations where a thermostat is comfortable in the center hallway, but a west-facing bedroom gets hammered by afternoon sun and ends up 6 or 7 degrees warmer than the rest of the house.
Sun exposure plays a bigger role than many people realize. Two rooms can be the exact same size, have the exact same vents, and receive the exact same amount of airflow. But if one room has large west-facing windows, it can feel completely different.
Another thing we see a lot is homeowners closing vents in rooms they're not using.
That's a big one.
People think they're helping the system. They close vents in guest rooms or spare bedrooms because they assume that extra air will be redirected elsewhere. Unfortunately, HVAC systems don't really work that way.
Exactly. What often happens is you create pressure imbalances in the duct system. Instead of improving comfort, you can actually reduce performance and create new problems.
It's kind of like putting your thumb over part of a garden hose. The airflow characteristics change. Now, instead of balancing properly throughout the home, the system starts operating differently than it was designed to.
Another common issue is furniture placement. People are surprised when we mention this, but we've walked into homes where a large dresser is sitting directly in front of a supply register, or a bed is covering half of the vent, or a couch is blocking a return.
And they don't realize they're restricting airflow. The equipment may be working perfectly, but the room itself can't circulate air the way it was intended.
I think one of the biggest frustrations for homeowners is when they spend money replacing equipment, expecting comfort issues to disappear.
Absolutely.
We've seen people replace a perfectly functional furnace or air conditioner because a bedroom was uncomfortable. Then, after installation, they call back and say, the room is still hot. Well, of course it is. The problem was airflow distribution all along.
That's why a good contractor should always investigate the entire comfort system, not just the equipment. Comfort is equipment, ductwork, airflow, insulation, windows, home design, and even how occupants use the house.
And every house is different. A two-story home built 20 years ago has different challenges than a bungalow built in the 70s. A finished basement creates different airflow demands than an unfinished basement. You really have to look at the entire picture.
The good news is that many airflow issues are actually solvable. The bad news is that there's rarely a single magic fix. Usually, it's a combination of understanding why the imbalance exists and then making targeted improvements.
And that's what we're going to spend the rest of today's episode talking about. Why these problems happen, what homeowners should look for, and what realistic solutions actually work. One thing homeowners often ask is why airflow issues seem to get worse over time. They'll tell us the house felt okay when they moved in, but now certain rooms feel completely different.
There can be several reasons for that. One of the most common is simply that homes change over time. People renovate, they finish basements, they add insulation, they replace windows, they build additions. The HVAC system was originally designed around a certain set of conditions, and sometimes the house evolves while the airflow system stays exactly the same.
There can be several reasons for that. One of the most common is simply that homes change over time. People renovate, they finish basements, they add insulation, they replace windows, they build additions. The HVAC system was originally designed around a certain set of conditions, and sometimes the house evolves, while the airflow system stays exactly the same.
That's true. A clogged filter restricts airflow through the entire system. The furnace blower can only move so much air. If it's struggling to pull air through a dirty filter, comfort can suffer throughout the house.
And it's not always just the filter. We've seen dirty evaporator coils, plugged secondary filters, blocked returns, and ductwork restrictions that gradually reduce airflow over the years.
Returns are a really interesting topic. Most homeowners pay attention to supply vents because that's where they feel air coming out. But return air is just as important.
Maybe even more important in some situations.
Exactly. For air to enter a room, air also has to leave the room. If return pathways are restricted, rooms can become pressurized or depressurized, which affects overall circulation.
This is especially common in bedrooms. People close the bedroom door at night, and suddenly airflow changes dramatically. The room still has supply air entering, but the return path back to the system becomes restricted.
That's why some newer homes include dedicated return ducts in bedrooms or specially designed airflow pathways under doors. It's all about keeping air moving.
That's why some newer homes include dedicated return ducts in bedrooms or specially designed airflow pathways under doors. It's all about keeping air moving.
Absolutely. The size of the duct matters. The length of the duct matters. The number of turns matters. The location matters. Everything affects how air travels through the system.
Think about two bedrooms. One might be located 10 feet from the furnace. The other might be 50 feet away with multiple bends in the duct. Even though both rooms have vents, they may receive very different amounts of airflow.
And sometimes those differences were never properly addressed during construction. Not every home has perfect duct design. In fact, many don't.
Then there are insulation issues. This is where HVAC and building science overlap.
Exactly. Let's say a room above a garage is always hot in summer and cold in winter. A lot of people immediately blame airflow. Sometimes airflow contributes, but often the bigger problem is heat gain and heat loss through poorly insulated surfaces.
The room is essentially fighting a different battle than the rest of the house. The HVAC system is trying to maintain temperature, but the room keeps gaining or losing heat faster than surrounding spaces.
We see similar issues with bonus rooms, finished attic spaces, and upper floors. Heat naturally rises. Second floors often experience greater cooling challenges than main floors. That's simply physics.
And that's why homeowners sometimes get frustrated when they say, "My air conditioner runs all afternoon, but upstairs still feels warm." The equipment may actually be operating properly. The challenge is distributing comfort evenly throughout a structure that experiences different heating and cooling loads.
One thing people rarely consider is how much technology has improved. Modern systems often include options like variable speed equipment, zoning systems, and advanced controls that weren't common years ago.
And those technologies can help address comfort imbalances when they're applied correctly.
But even then, technology isn't magic. You still need good ductwork. You still need proper airflow. You still need reasonable insulation and home performance.
Exactly. The best equipment in the world can't completely overcome major airflow restrictions or significant building deficiencies.
That's why diagnosis matters so much. Throwing equipment at a comfort problem without identifying the actual cause is usually an expensive gamble.
And that's probably one of the biggest takeaways so far. When rooms feel different, don't automatically assume bigger equipment is the answer. In many cases, it's not.
So let's talk solutions. If someone listening right now has a room that's always too hot or always too cold, where should they start?
The first step is observation. Pay attention to patterns. Is the room uncomfortable all year? Only during summer? Only during winter? Only in the afternoon? Those details can provide valuable clues.
Exactly. A room that's hot every summer afternoon may point towards solar heat gain. A room that's cold all winter might indicate insulation issues or airflow deficiencies. Patterns help narrow down the possibilities.
The next thing I'd suggest is checking the simple stuff first. Make sure vents are open. Make sure returns aren't blocked. Make sure furniture isn't restricting airflow. Check the furnace filter. Those are easy things homeowners can evaluate themselves.
And sometimes the solution really is that simple. We've had service calls where a blocked return grill was causing comfort complaints throughout an entire section of the home.
Another thing homeowners should understand is that perfect temperature uniformity isn't realistic.
That's an important point. No house maintains exactly the same temperature in every room all the time. There will always be slight differences. The goal is comfort, not perfection.
Sometimes people expect every room to stay within a fraction of a degree. In reality, a couple degrees of variation throughout a home is very normal.
Now, if you're dealing with 5, 6, 7, or 8 degree differences, that's when investigation becomes worthwhile.
Especially if it's affecting sleep, productivity, or overall comfort.
Let's talk about balancing. This is something many homeowners hear about but don't fully understand. And that's something that should generally be performed by someone who understands airflow measurement and system performance.
Because random adjustments can actually make things worse.
Exactly. Another solution in some homes is zoning.
Zoning can be very effective when it's designed properly. Instead of treating the entire house as one giant area, zoning allows different sections of the home to be controlled independently.
It's not appropriate for every house, but in the right application, it can solve some very challenging comfort issues.
We've also seen homeowners benefit from improvements that aren't HVAC related at all. Adding attic insulation, reducing solar heat gain, improving air sealing, upgrading windows. Sometimes those improvements make a dramatic difference.
That's why a comfort problem isn't always strictly an HVAC problem. Sometimes it's a house problem.
And understanding the difference saves homeowners a lot of money and frustration.
The biggest thing I'd encourage people to remember is that airflow issues are usually solvable. Maybe not always with a single fix, but there are often ways to improve comfort significantly.
And don't get discouraged if the answer isn't obvious right away. Some comfort issues require a little detective work. A good contractor should be willing to investigate, measure, and explain what's happening.
That's the key word right there, explain. Homeowners deserve to understand why a room is uncomfortable, not just be told they need expensive equipment.
Exactly. The best solutions start with understanding the root cause.
Well, Todd, I think that's a great place to wrap things up.
Absolutely. This is one of those topics that affects a lot of homeowners. And hopefully today's conversation helped people understand why those hot rooms, cold rooms, and airflow problems happen in the first place.
And more importantly, hopefully it showed that comfort issues aren't always as simple as replacing a furnace or air conditioner. Sometimes the real answer is airflow, insulation, ductwork, or how the home itself is performing.
If you're dealing with comfort problems in your home, start by paying attention to the patterns and symptoms. The more information you have, the easier it becomes to identify what's actually causing the issue.
Thanks again for spending some time with us today. We really appreciate everyone who's been listening, following along, and sharing the podcast with friends and family.
We absolutely do. It's been great hearing from listeners and getting questions about topics you'd like us to cover. Keep sending those ideas our way.
And if you found today's episode helpful, make sure you follow the podcast so you don't miss future episodes.
We've got plenty more homeowner questions, HVAC topics, maintenance tips, and real-world industry conversations coming up.
Thanks again for listening.
Take care, everybody.
And we'll see you next week on Air Design Answers.